I'm Jenny. Welcome to my channel where we focus on using ordinary materials to make beautiful things. So I hope you will forgive the mess that's already on my desk because I've already started messing with something this morning. Messing, yeah, okay. So I've already started playing with some stuff this morning, trying to decide what I could do with it. And then I thought, oh, I should turn on the camera. Maybe that would be a good idea. So I've been watching a whole bunch of videos on making backgrounds from index cards. And lots of people have done it. Shanuki Art has beautiful ones. Carrie the Crafter has some pretty cool ones. Tina over at Shabby Dabby Doodah has some cool ones. I've seen a lot. I mean, I've been watching a ton of them because I've been trying to figure out exactly what to do with these. So I don't have index cards. I know, crazy, right? Who doesn't have index cards? But I don't. However, these came in my mailbox. So I don't know if you guys get these or not, but they're just ads. Instead of getting like a flyer, you get these kind of postcard size ads so that you can keep the ones that apply to you and presumably throw away the rest. Well, you know me, I don't like to throw things away that I could turn into something else. And I thought, gee, since I don't have index cards, I should be able to use those. Now, these are pretty flimsy. They are not super strong, so they're not cardstock. Index cards, I would guess, are probably stiffer than this. I know some of them are not super thick, but these are not thick at all. They do have a little bit of a coating on one side, and they're a black and white print on the other. So they're color and then black and white on the back. I just can't bring myself to go out and buy index cards when I have these. So I've been playing with these this morning, figuring out if I could just use them instead of index cards. And I came up, and you can see I have a whole stack of them. I mean, these were like a thick stack. So I have several things to show you, and then we'll do a couple of them together, I think. We'll save that one for a minute. So one of the first things I did, let me set that one aside. One of the first things I did was I used some paintable wallpaper scraps. And I actually used wallpaper paste because that's what I use when I collage. Wallpaper paste is very inexpensive. It comes in a tub. You can get it for like $8 for this big tub. I think I paid between $8 and $10 at Home Depot or Lowe's or one of those places. Any place that sells wallpaper should have it. It's inexpensive, and it adheres well, it dries fairly quickly, and it makes a decent top coat. You can put it on top of stuff and still paint over and things. So that's what I use when I am collaging. So that's what I used for these. So as I said, these are really flimsy. So I glued them to some paintable wallpaper, and I have several here that you can see. So here's some of the plain, and you can see a little bit of shadow of the advertising under like this one. But these you cannot. I love this. This is a piece of border that was a piece of paintable wallpaper, and that's the pattern that's on this one. This one you can see through a little bit, but as you can see, once you start putting paint on it, you won't see anything, but you will see the texture. So I started putting some paint on this, and I don't love it, and it kind of got all together, and it got muddy. So I am, it's dry now. I was set it aside to, well, the back is still a little damp, but the top is dry. I set it aside to dry a little bit so I can do something else to it because I'm not super crazy about this. It's kind of plain, but it certainly, is better than the card. So my phone rang and then it stopped. Interesting. So even if it's just got a little bit of paint, and I'm using paint, not ink. So I'm sure you could use the ink. It'll runs around the same way the paint does. So I have those. And then I had some of this. And you can see I didn't even quite get it on there straight. I had tea dyed this before. This has a lot of texture. It's very deep. So I did this one. And I'm not crazy about it because I don't know. It's so thick. I don't know where I would use it. I don't have very much of it. I just have a few little scraps. So it's kind of been hanging around for quite a while. I think maybe you can kind of see the depth on it, I hope. I don't know. I don't know if you can or not. But it's kind of squishy, spongy, and thick. So I don't know. I'm thinking maybe I could cut it here and keep the swirl and put something in the middle of it and use it maybe on top of a journal. It could go in a journal, maybe as a card, but it is a little squishy. So I'm just not real sure about this one. But I do have another piece. So this again just has some paint on it. And you can see it's kind of run around there. The cool thing about the paint on these is that it just follows the pattern, which is what I love on this. This had, I did the smush technique, you know, where you just put some paint on a palette and put a little water on it. I've seen people doing it with the Tim Holtz ink or paint. And so I smushed it into it. And then I just sprayed some water on it and tipped it around until I got some purple spread around. I got a little bit of blue on there. And then I went back in and added some copper highlights. So I love this one, but I love this wallpaper and this border too. So, and that's this. I have a lot of this. Well, I don't have a lot, but I do have a few pieces of this left. So I had used it actually in strips. I cut it in shorter strips. It was pretty wide. It was kind of a wide border, so I cut it in half and made a snippet roll out of it. I painted it and made a snippet roll because I love the texture. So those are really cool. So if you have you know, some paintable wallpaper, some wallpaper scraps, you might try those. But I know lots of people don't have those. So we're gonna test out some other things too. Okay, so the next thing I tried was I glued some, let's see, is this the one with the magazine? Yeah, these are the magazine pieces, I think. Oh, nope, they're not. Get it straight, Medlock, get it straight. Okay, so I kind of smushed paint around on these and then I stenciled over the top. And I used, I don't know if you can see, I used 2 different stencils in 2 different colors. So once I kind of smushed the paint around, it really didn't cover the ad underneath totally. Like you could still see, you know, that it was an ad. And I don't care if you can see bits and pieces of the color or print or something, as long as you don't know that it's an ad. You can't really read what it's for. So I smushed some paint around on the bottom. I scraped. I used a plastic palette knife and scraped paint and smushed and stuff like that. Then I went in with some copper paint and a stencil, and I stenciled, and when that was dry, I went back with a different stencil and a different color across the top, kind of a blue-gray, and knocked that down. So all of these are like that. They started with a base coat of paint. So you can see down here in the corner a little I missed a little bit of the covering it right here and here. But you can't really tell what it is, so that doesn't bother me. So these all started with coats of paint in the bottom and then a couple of different stencils. This had a white stencil and kind of a blue-green. This one had kind of a gray in the stencil. The stencil's almost creates a reverse on this because you can see the color underneath it instead of the stencil really. So there's another one. You can tell I liked this stencil, right? Got a couple stuck together here. This one you can still see a little bit of the card under there, but I don't think it's too bad. You just see a couple words. You can't really read this, and this is old, so it's not too bad. So I thought those were okay. Then I tried just gluing a magazine page to them. So I glued them to a magazine page and then just cut them apart. But you can see there's a lot of wrinkling because the magazine page is so thin. I guess I should have realized that the wet glue was really going to wrinkle it. So it wasn't terrible. It's okay. But I ended up painting over them. So this one is the magazine page with just a stencil over it. I stenciled once over the magazine page, and I think it kind of makes an interesting background because you're kind of looking at this and you don't really know what that is behind it. It sort of looks like the ocean, but this just looks kind of like color and shadow. It's really hard to tell. I didn't use any ads out of a magazine that had words. I only used things that had pictures so that it would only be color when I looked at it. And that's what this is. There's actually part of a person. There's a part of a person standing here by the ocean in an ad. It's like a fashion ad. So you can kind of see some of the colors back here. So I think this would probably be okay as a background. Now, all of these are just backgrounds. They're just things where you can start and do something else with them. This one needs, I think some more stuff. It might need some more layers, but it definitely has, some color in the background and this texture on top. So I think we're well on our way to doing something with that. And is this one stuck together? No. Okay. And this one is the same way. I did smush around a little color on the ad before, which kind of created some lights and darks. Again, that has 2 layers of stenciling. So those turned out okay. Then I tried a coloring book page. So I thought this was fun because I like the pattern in the background. So the coloring book page was just a kind of a generic doodle coloring book page. So I glued that to the front and then I stenciled it again. This one is just stenciled once. It could probably use some more. It was still wet. Now that it's dry, we could turn it and put another stencil on it in a different color to build some layers. So it could use some more layers. This one probably could too. But I really love that you can see the doodling in the background. I think that's kind of cool. So I'm loving the coloring book page. So there's another thing to do with your coloring book pages. These, I decided to just glue some pieces, scraps that are in my scrap bin. So I glued some scraps. One of the edges didn't want to stay up, so I put a little washi tape on it. This was the same kind of thing. The scraps were different, but it was the same idea. And again, this has a stencil on it, so it doesn't really matter, I guess, which way you turn it. This was stenciled once over, but you get a lot of color and texture in the background from the scraps. So that's a way to go. And you can, if you don't want to smush it around, because it is pretty wet and it is kind of messy, and you can see my hands already have paint on them and, a little messy. But if you wanted to just stencil, or if you wanted to stencil a couple of different things in a couple of different colors, excuse me, then that would be, it would give you some layers of color without having to do a lot of painting. So that is my phone. I think I'm going to have to go answer it this time. I'll be right back. Hi guys, I'm back. It is unfortunately the next day. I had a minor family emergency I needed to deal with, so I didn't get back to this yesterday afternoon. But after looking back at the video, I see that we were talking about gluing things down, although this one has kind of separated now. Needs a little more glue. Gluing things like scraps down on these cards just to kind of start making backgrounds. Stop moving that around. So when I say backgrounds, I don't mean these are even really finished. They're just kind of a starting point, because when I was watching the videos with the index cards, many people, you could still tell it was an index card. They squished stuff around, they put stuff on it, but parts of the cards were still showing. And I don't feel like, you know, because this is an ad, I don't really have the liberty of allowing much of it to show. If it's okay if it's just kind of shadow or shading and stuff, but I don't want to see the phone numbers and the printing and things like that. So I feel like this is kind of just getting it to the point where I can then start doing some more fun things with it. So that was that idea. I did the same kind of thing with washi tape. Now, I really liked the washi tape because it was really fast. This one is washi tape too. It was super quick to just put some washi tape down. And, you know, when you buy packages of washi tape, there are some in there that you love, and some in there that you like. And there's always one or two that you're just not that crazy about. Or maybe you like it, but you never use it because it doesn't really go with anything for some reason. It just never seems to. So this is a good use of that. And the washi tape I used on here, I used two kinds. And one has writing on it. It says something about blooming and stuff. So you can see a little bit of the bloom here. And the other one has flamingos on it, which is cute, but it doesn't really kind of go with a lot of what I do. So I just layered it with washi tape, and you can still see some of the washi tape was thin. So you can still see a little bit of the ad through it. So this is just with one stencil across it, but it does make some interesting patterns, and it does give me some color. You know, so now I'm really just seeing pink and green and little bits of gold. So if I, you know, turned it this way and did another stencil, it would cover some of that up some more. This one is also washi tape, and you can see, I can see the tape on the edges because I didn't get those covered. But it is a basis certainly to start working with. You see less that it's washi tape and more that it's just pattern. So I think whatever you have that makes something just look less like a particular something, you don't really see a particular picture. You just see pattern, color, texture, that kind of stuff. That's what I'm going for with these. So I also had several weeks ago, gosh, I don't know how many weeks ago it was. Several weeks ago, I used address labels and upcycled them into faux washi tape. So basically I made stickers out of the labels. So I used those to cover some of this. So this one, I covered it, and then I went in with a charcoal pencil, and I just outlined, and then I used a really small brush and dipped in water just to smudge it a little bit. So I went in and outlined all the things, which kind of gave it, I think, an interesting look. It looks block-like, structured, that kind of stuff. So here's one without the outlining. Different color, same idea. Some of them, the first one I did, I kind of hodgepodged the stickers on there, and then later I started kind of doing a pattern with the stickers, so it might look more interesting outlined. Here's one in green that I made out of those stickers. Here's another one that's similar to that one, a little bit different, and then blues. So I think, you know, I think some of these might be more structured in how the stickers are put on than others. So we could do one. Let's see. I'm thinking this one looks pretty structured, and you can kind of see that it's a similar tone. I did similar colors on some of them. So we'll go ahead and do one of these, and then I think we're gonna do a little more stenciling on some of the other ones just to see how that would look with multiple layers of stencil. And that's what this one is, so I can show you that in just a minute. I know I showed you some that had 2 layers of stencil, but I think this one actually has 3, which is more interesting, right? You can just keep building it, and that's the idea. So let's just set that one there. And I'm just gonna go in with, this is just a charcoal pencil, right? As I showed you, it's a royal charcoal pencil. This one is medium. You could use a Stabilo. You could use anything that's water soluble. So it's just gonna smudge, right? You don't have to smudge it if you like the idea of just the lines. You could just put in some lines. not doing a very good job of getting these straight. So that's part of the reason I smudge it, is because I'm not always the best at putting in a straight line. Even though there's an edge, it's not very deep, so it's a little harder to follow. Let's see, where's another edge? There's one here. I think because these are, you know, long rectangles, that it makes it look like buildings. So this one had a torn edge, so that's kind of cool. I think it makes it look like buildings. To me, it looks like skyscrapers along, you know, along a cityscape. So I think if you know, and you could do this with other things. You wouldn't have to do it with, you know, stickers or washi tape. You could do it with pieces of scrap paper and just glue them down and then outline them. So I'm just kind of outlining all the different pieces of tape that I have on here. Okay, so I think I have them all. Oh, there's that one. Missed that one. Looks like there might be one here. Is that the same? Yep, that's the same piece. So I could leave it like that, and in here you can see this one's kind of smudged and this one isn't. Let me grab some water. I kind of like it smudged, but that's, you know, that's just a personal preference. That's not anything we have to do. I'm just gonna throw some water over here on my palette so I can dip my brush in. And then I'm just gonna go in and kind of smudge it out a little bit. There we go. You can see that's just kind of pulling it around. Just gives it a different look. Makes the line heavier. You could, you know, you can do it with a, you know, a little more of a messy hand if you want. If you don't want to follow it, you can kind of zigzag them and pull it out. That's kind of what I did here. I kind of did this, right? Years ago, there was towards the beginning of all of the, you know, DIY home reno shows where, you know, they show you how to do all the stuff. There was a guy named Christopher Lowell, and he was on, I think he was on HGTV. Don't, you know, don't hold me to it if he's not. But I think he was on HGTV. I'm pretty sure he was, because I think Carol Duvall was on the same channel with him. Anyway, Christopher Lowell was showing people how to do a faux marble effect. And so he had painted some wood, and he was going in with a paintbrush, you know, and just kind of zigzagging it down and you know, jittery. And he described it as being jittery, and he said, you know, drink, you know, you can drink a whole bunch of coffee. So I'm just thinking about that while I'm kind of smushing this around, thinking about Christopher Lowell and drinking a whole bunch of coffee so your hands would be jittery. Although I can tell you, my hands don't get jittery when I drink coffee, so that would not work for me. Although I have never had one of the energy drinks, so that might make me jittery. I don't know. That might do it, but I've never tried one. They just don't appeal to me. I know lots of people drink them. My daughter likes them, but of course, being a mom, I worry about her drinking them. But she's 27, so I can't really, you know, tell her what to do about it. So this just kind of you know, it just kind of smudges it out a little bit, makes it a little more, you know, I think a little more interesting. You know, some people would say it's a little more messy, but I like things that are a little messy, so I'm okay with that. So that just gives it some definition, and I really like it. You could again just draw on it and leave it, and it would be fine. So I really like these tapes with this on it. This is one of the things I'm liking. And because I had spattered the tapes and done, you know, stenciling and all kinds of stuff on those, I get all of that on here. I don't really have to do it on the cards because it already has spatters and things. So, you know, on these other ones, I feel like these, which are pretty cool, as far as the background goes, because I just put 3 different layers of stenciling on it. But I feel like they need some spatters. You know, they need something to kind of give it a little more dimension. Although this is kind of cool, I think, with there's this orange in the background is actually what's on the card. And so then there's some stencil in blue, and then stencil in purple, and then stencil in this kind of coppery mixed with some of the purple. It was still wet when I did it, so it kind of all just blended, that top layer did. So it's just a different look. I really like this look though. I think this is a fun look, and I'll probably go ahead and do that to these other cards as well. So let's stencil a couple though and see how that looks. I think I have. These only have 1 layer of stencil on them, and I would like to have several layers. That one has 1. This one has 2, it looks like. So let's do the ones that have 1 or 2 so we can see how that looks. You know, it's really just building layers, and I think stenciling is a good way to do that. Doodling is another good way to do that. My cards have kind of curled on me. I walked away and left them yesterday and didn't kind of flatten them out. Probably I should have. They were a little damp and I didn't get them flat. So let's just do a couple of these. And I brought a stencil, and I picked a different one than I used yesterday. I have this one, and then I have this one, which has several different patterns on it. And you can see I like these stencils. And since the cards are smallish, we could use different ones. We could, you know, stencil some of that, and then later go back and, you know, stencil some of that over it, which would kind of give it a little dot, you know, dot pattern. And this one has different parts. We could use different parts of it. So we'll do that. Yesterday too, when I left, I didn't even pick up my brushes and put them away. So my brushes are soaking in some brush cleaner, hoping that that I can revive them. So I do have another stenciling brush. It is a little bit smaller, but that's okay. This is a small project. Let's see, I have some gold on there. Let's go with a little bit of purple on this one, and we can pick up some purple and do it on those two. Right now I'm just kind of working on a project that I think I want to use these colors in, so that's why I'm kind of doing the purples and the let's see, do I want to use this one? Yeah, so that's why I'm using the purples and the blues, because they're colors I've chosen for something else. And so, you know, and later if I decide I want a different color, I can always go back and stencil a different color on the top that will knock these into the background. You know, you can blend something else. You don't have to leave it. And some of these I probably won't do any more than just a couple layers of stenciling on, so that they're ready for something else that I might use them for. Okay, that's kind of fun. So there's a second layer. So I think when we do a third layer across there, you know, if we turn it and kind of do it this way, I like this because you can still see the doodling in the background from that coloring page, and you can still see the copper. And then there's some purple on top of it. This one too has, remember this was one of the magazine pictures. It looks like there's a little bit of the ocean and a person there. Let's do this one that's kind of a fence-like look. And we'll do it kind of off kilter. I don't want it to be too straight. I'll do that in a little bit of the purple too. Just to see how it looks. See, and that's what happens now. I'm sitting here doing this and I just stuck my hand on the, I'm way over here, way off the card. I just stuck my hand on the stencil I just used. So of course now I have purple paint on my fingers. Big surprise. Right, that's kind of up there. And then I started way down here because I saw the brown paper through it instead of the card. And oh, this is just going to be one of those videos. I hope you will forgive me. We all have those days, I think. So I'm sure you can relate. I don't know how far off the card I am there, but I know I want to get it all, so. All right. And see, I got kind of messy with that. And it didn't really do much, did it? Well, maybe that one's not the one we want to use. See, it's all a learning process. You put something on, you look at it, you go, oh, not so much. As a matter of fact, I really don't like that, so I'm just going to kind of swish it around here and put some color down so that I can just put something else on top of it. Right. And you can kind of see the stencil below it through there. So if you do something and you don't like it, you can always do something else to it. All right. So I'm kind of swirl this out because I really don't like it. Didn't like how it looked. And I'm going to let it dry and then I'll do something else to it. So, that's really the trick is what else do you want to do to it? I like that pale blue. Let's try this one. It's kind of a blue-gray under there. See if I can keep it at least close to being on the card this time. I guess it really doesn't matter because I have this piece of paper and then eventually this brown paper will get torn to smaller pieces and put in with my collage fodder because I really like the painted papers for that. Go in my scrap pile. Although since it's bigger, I'll probably hang on to part of it where the whitish painting is. That's good to write on with a Sharpie so that you could write a sentiment on it or something like that to put on a page. Excuse me. So I just got a little heavy-handed with the last one. Oh, that's kind of cool. See, now I like that with that kind of bluish underneath showing through. And then some of that design, that's fun. I think that one could use, if we put some, all I can think is like is little, sparkles, but that's not what I mean. If we put some like droplets, I just can't think of the word, I don't know, sometimes things just elude me. So if we did that, if we used a brush and just did that in like gold on top of it, then I think that would be fun. I think that would be a fun background that I could put other things on. Then it would be ready for, something like a focal point, something like that. I haven't put any text on here. Shinuki Art, when she did hers, she has an interesting way of doing it. She puts down glue and then throws the text on it and then lets it dry and then rips the text off, and it leaves little pieces of glued text that are really cool looking. So I really like the way she did that. I don't know, since this is glued to the card, I don't know if that would work with that, but it probably would work on just the card by itself. So that's definitely cool with the layers. So as you build up layers, it starts getting more interesting, right? It's kind of about how interesting we can make it. So that one looks like it's got a tiny bit of gold, maybe some copper in there. I could use a little more copper, I think. It's got a little bit of purple. Let's see, what could we do? I think maybe that design is too prominent there. I'm thinking maybe just over the edge here. Right. Let's try a little more of the copper. I'm not washing the brush in between. I don't really care if it mingles some. I did take a little bit off if I can get the extra off, but it's going to pick up some purple from the stencil. So, because the stencil's still wet. So that's okay, because we're just building layers. Again, this is not finished artwork. This is just background layers to make something interesting, to put something else on. So, these cards definitely need to be decorated, but I feel like they're going to be a good substitute. Yeah, I like that. I'm getting a little heavy-handed with that, huh? Let's try a different, maybe the leaf over here. I think these are really a good substitute for the index cards that I don't have and that I didn't want to buy. And I know some people are like, well, but index cards are cheap. It's like, well, they are, but the point is I'm trying to use junk mail, in my junk journal, so that I'm not adding anything else, to the waste. I can maybe pull something out of the trash, and keep it from going there. That one's better. I like this one. So I think this one's probably ready for some spatters. Spatters, that's what it's called. Is probably ready for some spatters once I get through the rest of them and they're dry. So I think some spatters, and then it'll be ready maybe for decorating with, with a focal point and things like that. Okay, so I think you get the idea. I really just wanted to show you my answer to the index card dilemma. So if you get these in the mail, use them, right? Do something with them. I think on the back, I was looking at the black and white. I think on the back, I am just gonna glue on a piece of notebook paper. So on the notebook paper, you could still see a little bit of this through. I mean, it wasn't prominent, but you could tell there was an ad under it, and you could see it was there. And I'm okay with that, because I think that's just a nod to the fact that I used a piece of junk mail to make something cool. I didn't go buy it. I used something, that came in the mail that would have ended up in the trash can in the landfill. And instead of sending it there, I used something and put it in a journal and used it to write on. So you might consider that. You might just consider some solid colored paper on the back, or something with a real faint design, maybe something that you could still write on. That would be cool. So just, it just means you have to cover the back too. And I realize that using something like this is a little more work than if you had those plain index cards, because then you don't have to cover this. It's just a matter of kind of smushing the paint around, and if you see the white, it's okay. But I also think that there's a charm to taking something, trashy, and turning it into something that definitely does not look like trash. So, all right. So that's it for me today. I hope you had a good time hanging out with me. If you found some value here, please hit like and subscribe. Leave me a comment. I'm always happy to discuss things with you. If there's something you'd like to see me try to upcycle, some kind of junk mail or something that, trash, something that you have laying around that you'd like to know what to do with, please let me know. I would be happy to, see what I can make out of it. There are many of us who do this kind of thing, and we all have different ideas, and I think it's really cool when we share. So, let me know how I can share with you better, and share with me. Post some pictures of things you've made too. I'd love to see them. So until next time, remember, make your life, I can't even say it. Until next time, remember, use what you have to make your life more beautiful. Bye.